All right, I am back. I'm a couple minutes late because I forgot to hit go. So you're probably gonna catch up here in just a second, and I will talk about what is going on. My cameras are messing with me. All right, so I'm back. I am picking up where I left off yesterday. Like I said, I forgot to hit go on the go live, so we'll talk again. Started making a carbon fiber ring with Amboyna burl, and you can see it's all glued up. It's looking pretty good. Seams are looking good. There's no real gap between the core and the wood blank, so that's good. I've still got to shape down the inside, get my final size, and get that comfort fit curve in there. I decided earlier gonna be doing an inlay on this as well, be a thin blue line. The gentleman I'm making this for is actually retired from the sheriff's department, so that's gonna be that. I'm gonna start by shaping the outside down, at least bringing it round and bringing it even with the carbon fiber, if you can see that. So we're good there. So I'm gonna mount this up on my unimandrel. I'm using the plastic jaws on this, or spacers, or whatever you want to call them. The thing I like about this particular mandrel is I can mount and remount and all that as many times as I'd like, and it's always going to be dead center. So I have no problems keeping everything running true. Hey, look, Chris is here. I am going to be doing more. I'm going to be doing more on YouTube. So make sure everybody's subscribing. If you could share it, give me a thumbs up, all that fun stuff. It definitely would help me. I want to grow my YouTube channel a little bit more. I'll still be doing my Monday night live ring turnings on Facebook, but I am going to be devoting more time to YouTube. So if you want to see the good stuff, come over here and check it out. Yeah, so let's stop talking and start making, because I'd rather make than talk. So I'm going to give you that top-down angle again. I'm going to start off with my spindle gouge to bring it down to round, and then as I get closer into the core, I'll probably switch over to a square carbide. Alright, so I'm down to the core there. So I'm going to get rid of the mandrel. Actually, before I do that, let's take a look at this. See what that Amboyna looks like. That is gorgeous. I was hoping that knot was going to show through. Or that eye, whatever it is. Man, that is pretty. Alright. So we've got that. Let me switch you over here so you can see what I'm doing. So now I've got my ring almost ready to go. So I'm going to shape the inside now. So I'm going to get the mandrel out of the way. We'll come back to that in a bit. And I'm just grabbing the end of it. I don't want to put too much pressure on. I don't need to put too much pressure on. And I'm going to start sanding. Well, since if you watch part 1, you'll know I went about a 1/2 millimeter over, and I'm going to double check my measurements now that everything's said and dried and all that fun stuff. But I need to take about a 1/2 millimeter off the total inside, and I need to do the comfort fit. So I'm going to probably start with a 60 grit just to move things along. So I am at 22 millimeters right now. I need to go to 22.6. I'm going to turn my speed down. I'm going to unlock my headstock. Then I'm going to start shaping that comfort fit core, or comfort fit curve, rather. Now I'm anticipating that I'm probably going to take off enough from the center to get where I need to be as far as size goes. You want to keep that moving. You don't want it to get hot. Which is also why I slowed it down. Because at this point we've got carbon fiber and CA glue that could possibly lose. Well, the carbon fiber could delaminate. Don't want that. Alright, that's good and rounded over there. So I'm going to flip this around. Actually, do I want to flip it around? Yeah, I'll flip it around. Again, not putting a whole lot of pressure on it, because at this point this is only about 2.5 millimeters thick. So I don't want to crush it. check that out. Yeah, that feels nice. All right, clean that up a little bit, and then I'm going to check my inside diameter. See how I'm looking there. I said I need to be at 22.6. I'm at 22.2. Yep. So I'm going to sand out a little bit more. Again, I went with the 60 grit only because I want to move a lot of material really fast, and I don't want to take you guys on an hour-and-a-half long sanding adventure. So 60 grit it is, and then I'll work my way up. Check my size. .3. Yeah, Chris, there was definitely a part one. Did that last night. You are more than welcome to go back and check that out at any point. Each time I go to measure, I do zero it out just to make sure. All right, I'm at 22.3. Yep. So another 0.3 millimeters, and I'm there. .4. This is going to be a size 13.5 ring. Fairly large. For you ring makers out there that are wondering where I get the carbon fiber, it was not at ringsupplies.com. I think they've got it, but I got it at fatcat.net. Got a link in the description for you on that. Got a couple favorite ring suppliers. None of them are paying me to talk about it, but I like their customer service and I like the products they provide, so I do tend to work with them quite a bit. It's ringsupplies.com, which you can also find their products on the Craft Supplies USA website, at least some of them. Fatcat.net and shopdreamwood.com. Those are right now the three that I like working with the most, just because of their products, their customer service. You know, they're knowledgeable, and you know, it's nice having somebody that's making the products or providing the products that can speak intelligently about it. So I stick with them. All right. Check my size. Zero it out. 22.5. Oh, it's right there. It's trying to go to 22.6. So I'm going to move on to finer grit sandpapers. So that was 60. I'm going to jump up to 150. Great thing about making rings is you only ever need that much sandpaper. Plus, blow it out real quick with the air compressor. A lot of times you can get multiple uses out of it. At least if you don't get it gummed up. Alright, should be good there. Go ahead and clean this between grits. Get them at 220. Clean it. And then I'm going to find some 500. Now that I'm up to 500, I'm going to go ahead and get the sandpaper wet. Do a little bit of wet sand. Clean it out. Then I'll go to 1,000. Again, I'm wet sanding. And I am just using the denatured alcohol for the wet sanding because it dries fast. Probably shouldn't smoke if you try that. This stuff will burst into flames. Just throw that out there. I'm no safety expert, but there we are. All right. So we're sanded up to 1,000. I'm going to double check my size here. Yep. Right at 22.6. So I'm good there. Got my size 13.5 just right. Now I need some plastic polish, which is hiding over here behind the camera. And I just picked this up at Harbor Freight. Works great for carbon fiber. Works great for resin. I also use it to do a final polish on my Illumi UV. So it's a fairly versatile product. I need a drink. And I probably need more polish. Yep. Alright, now I'm just going to turn up the speed a little bit. Get a good little buff polish of this inside. That should bring out the shine on that carbon fiber really well. That is pretty. Alright, inside's finished. Just get some clean paper towel, run it through one more time, just to clean it up a bit. A little bit came off. That's pretty though. Let's see if you can. Well, you'll see it here in a second. Maybe. You can kind of see it in there. Lighting's at an odd angle for it, but I might do it there. Alright, so that's the inside finished. Now I need to work on the outside. And for that, I'm going to go back to using my chuck. I'm sorry, my mandrel. I'm going to clean out the inside of those jaws real quick though. Get that on there good and tight. Alright, so we're good there. I'm just going to back this off a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit real quick. We're getting there. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my detail carbide out, and I'm going to make my inlay channel, and I'm going to clean up this edge of the wood, maybe, because for some reason that tool was hiding. Alright, so I'm going to come in right at the intersection of the wood and the carbon fiber, make my inlay channel, and it's going to be a thin line. And I'm also going to clean up the edge here. And I'm going to be careful not to hit my jaws or my mandrel. I'm going to start over here. Just to square it up a little bit. And we'll get a little groove going here. Should be right there. Yep. All right, it's about, I don't know, 1/2 millimeter deep. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, probably about 1 millimeter deep. All right, so we've got our inlay channel cut, and now it's time to fill it. So I'll get that over here a little bit. I'll use that kind of as a tool rest. Now I'm going to clean that channel out. So just get another little bit of paper towel, a little bit of denatured alcohol, and I'm just going to kind of jam my fingernail down in there and clean it out. Just get any dust out and make sure I'm going to get a good bond with my CA glue. Now you can kind of see that channel when I hold this shop towel behind it. If I catch it in the right spot for you. So it's not super thick, and it's not super deep. It doesn't need to be. I'm going to be using a rock called blue azurite, and I'm using that because it has a real nice royal blue color to it. I was considering using blue opal, but I really want this to be a solid blue and not sparkly. Tank is not a sparkly person. I need my blue azurite. There it is. It got hidden under paper towels. So I just find it at rock shops. That's lapis. Is that what? This is lapis. I don't want lapis. Where is my azurite? Bear with me. All right, that's more better. All right, so I've got my blue azurite. Like I said, I just pick it up at local rock shops. It's fairly inexpensive, but it's a nice royal blue once it's finished. You kind of see it's deep dark blue. I like using it for the thin blue line inlays for that reason. And I've already got it crushed up fairly fine. So I'm going to start laying this in. And to do that, I'm going to use a couple tools. Actually, probably mostly just this one. Depending on how big the inlay is, I use different tools. I've probably got 10 or 15 of these different shaped, basically dental picks, if you want to call them that. I picked up a pack of a lot from Harbor Freight for cheap, so it's nice having different shaped tools for different shaped and widths of inlays. I'm just gonna blow this all off. Dry off this stone real quick too. All right, I think the noise is done for now. And I'm gonna get a piece of paper, clean piece of paper, and actually gonna get this tool rest completely out of the way. And what I'm gonna do is just fold it in half. And then unfold it. Just kind of flatten it out on the edges. I'm gonna set it right there in the bottom of the lathe bed here. That way any of the material that I spill over will land in there and I can recollect it. Sometimes you'll do inlays with materials that are fairly pricey and you don't want to waste it. Now the azurite, like I said, it's not very expensive at all, but why waste it when you don't have to? And of course, I forgot to get the cap off my CA glue. It tends to require 2 hands. Paper's handy there too, because now all I've got to do is dump it back in my hand. Right back there. Right back there. All right. Get this going here. Now I'm just going to put a drop in and then sprinkle it. And then I'm going to pack it in. And I'm just going to repeat the process all the way around. Now I am going to end up with CA on both sides, but that's okay because I'm going to end up doing a finish turning on it anyways to get it down to the size that I want it, which is why I went as deep as I did with the inlay channel. And I'm packing that stone dust down in there. This ring is came about, if you didn't watch the first part, or you need a reminder, Tank and I have admired each other's craftsmanship for quite a while. He makes beautiful pens, and I've kind of been eyeballing them, and he's been eyeballing my rings. And now, granted, I make pens, and he makes rings, but it's kind of nice when you can get something neat from another craftsman, because everybody's always going to put their own little spin on it. So we're doing a swap. He's sending me a fountain pen with Amboyna burl. I've never had a fountain pen, and I know I'd never make one for myself because I just really never considered doing it. But he offered to make me a fountain pen with Amboyna. It's actually a hybrid blank. So it's wood and resin. And he actually sent me pictures of it yesterday. I should have put them up here on my computer so I could show you. But just a beautiful, beautiful pen. I'll post pictures to my my Facebook page. So make sure you're following me there too. Once I get it in. Actually, I could probably send pictures before then because I've already got pictures. But yeah, so him and I both really, really, really like Amboyna burl. It's by far my favorite wood to work with because of how pretty it is. There's so much character and depth to the colors. It's just neat. This is also, kind of a thank you to him, because he's always there supporting me with the things that I do. I try to support him with the things he does, but he definitely helps me out. I do a lot of work with different veteran organizations, primarily disgruntled vets, and we run all kinds of charity events through the year, raising money for homeless veterans and suicide prevention, and Tank steps up every time I ask for donations, because we do a lot of raffles at the events, and it's always nice to have handcrafted items for those raffles. So he always supports us with that, which is great. All right, I think I'm just about where I need to be with this inlay. I'm just going to spin it around one more time and see if I can spot any gaps and make sure it's pressed in there good. But if you want to order one of his pens or support him, you can find him on Facebook at Tank's Custom Pens. Alright, so I'm going to get this out of the way. Again, super handy. Pour it right into the bag. And I'm going to cap my CA. Now, if you're curious, I'm using Mercury Flex CA. And I'm actually going to mist it with a little bit of activator, if it reveals itself to me. It was over here. Now I'm spraying that from about 1.5 feet back and doing light mist across it. So I'm going to let that set for a minute. And let's see. That's all right, Frank. You don't have to be on time. It's YouTube. You can watch it later. So far, talk you through where I've been. From where I left off yesterday, I brought the ring down to round. I sanded and polished the inside to a comfort fit finish. And then I cleaned up the wood edge and did my little thin blue line inlay groove with my carbide detail tool. And then I packed in some blue azurite for the thin blue line inlay. So that's where I am right now. I'm just kind of giving it a minute for the CA to set a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn it and get it back down where it's flat. I'll take a look, see if there's any voids in the inlay at all. If there is, I'm gonna go back through and fill those and repeat until it is filled up completely. So that's where I am with that so far. It's looking pretty good. Any questions so far? I am going to be showing the process, well, putting on the Illuma UV and dropping it in the UV bath during this as well. So if you watch both parts, you're going to see this from raw materials all the way through to the final finishing steps, other than the last little polish that I put on it after the UV resin set. Now, if anybody's wondering where I got this fancy little mandrel, ring mandrel, that's the Unimandrel from ringsupplies.com. I did get the carbon fiber from fatcat.net. The Amboyna I picked up off somebody from eBay, I think. But got my carbon fiber from Fat Cat on this one. Shop Dreamwood's a good one too for ring supplies, and then ringsupplies.com, of course, is great too. So, all right, I'm going to bring my tool rest back up because it's looking and feeling pretty darn dry. So I'll flip back over to the top-down view for you. Move this just a little bit there. All right. And I am going to start off with my round cutter because it's the sharpest one I've got right now. And then I'll move into my square cutter. All right. This mandrel runs super, super true. Unfortunately, the pin jaws don't. So I'm going to reinforce this real quick with a little bit of support from the tailstock. Just about. All right, so at this point, I can see my inlay, and it looks like I did a pretty good job of packing it in there. Now I do need to drop this side down about a 1/2 millimeter below the carbon fiber. So I'm going to start working on that now. Alright, so I'm just below the carbon fiber. The reason I do that is because I want my Illuma UV to butt up to the carbon fiber and get a good seal in there. So now I want to do the same thing on this side. I want to add just a little shoulder for the carbon fiber, or for the Illuma UV to bond to the carbon fiber. So I'm going to back my tool rest up a little bit because this is angled down, and if it's too close it's funky. So I'm going to come in here and just nibble away at the edge so that I can get a good bond with the carbon fiber on that Illuma UV. Alright, so I've got a little bit of a shoulder there. You can kind of see. So now I need to do some sanding. Yep, just a little. And it's like a millimeter. It's like a millimeter wide between the edge of the carbon fiber and the edge of the wood now. So there's a little shoulder there that the Illuma UV is going to rest on. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more on the side over here so that I can get a better shoulder there. That's better. All right, time to do some sanding. Now on this side, I'm only going to sand at 220. On the other side, actually, before I sand, I need to round over this edge so it's nice and smooth. I'll probably use my detail tool on that too. That feels nice. Get that out of the way. Turn my speed down. Sand that shoulder first. Now the reason I only sand at 220 on the parts that I'm coating in the Illuma UV is so that it actually has a little bit of tooth to grab onto. And I'm going to use the back of my parting tool as kind of a mold for the sandpaper, so I can get right up close crisp to that shoulder. Then it's flat, so I put a little bevel on the side here. Clean up with some denatured alcohol. Let's take a look at it real quick because that's fun. That's roughly what it's going to look like finished. You get that thin blue line right next to the carbon fiber. That is pretty. All right. I'm going to start with the 220 on the carbon fiber side. I don't want to go too aggressive because I don't want to bring that down too far. Make sure, yeah, we're looking good there. A little more with the 220. Get a clean piece. So question from Frank says, when you use the Illumi UV, do you use to make the ring a larger size to compensate? If I was coating the entire ring in the Illumi UV and doing a full dip, I would increase the size of it by about a half a size to a full size, depending on how thick of a coating I wanted on the Illumi UV. But for this one, it's not going to be a full dip. I'm only going to apply it to the wood and the blue azurite there. So I made it the exact size that I needed. All right. So I'm into my 500 grit. Don't need a lot, but I do want it wet because you don't want friction. Well, you don't want heat to build up as you're sanding these out. And I am wiping down between each grit with the shop towel because I don't want to transfer any grit between sanding applications. All right, going to 1,000. Spot on the towel. Looking good. Now I am going to polish the carbon fiber side with the Plastex polish. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to hit this side again with the 220 and clean it up before I apply the Illumi UV. Actually, I'm going to hold off on that. I don't want to get the polish on the wood before I put the Illumi UV on there because I want a good bond. And I just don't want to risk it because I'm going to come back through and polish again once the Illumi UV is on there. So I will save that till the end. All right. That's sanded to 220 for sure. Because I nudged it with the 500 and 1,000 on the wood. And I know from previous experience that if I sand it too fine, the Illumi UV won't have anything to grip onto, and it'll flake off a lot easier. So sand anything that you're finishing with Illumi UV to 220 and stop. It's one of the reasons I like it, because you don't have to go to 3,000 on your sanding process to get it where you need it. All right, I'm going to pull this off the mandrel now. Put that back on. And I'm actually going to get this chuck out of the way, because I am done with it. Now, I made a whole bunch of these guys for finishing, and I just build them up with tape however big I need them. So I'm going to make sure I've got it set that way. Before I do, though, I'm going to just double check my edges. I can actually bring that edge, that's kind of sharp. So I'm going to flatten that out a little bit. So I'll do that. It won't take but half a second. Alright, that'll be nice once I get the Illumi UV on there. So now I'm going to go through, I'm just going to do a quick wipe down one more time. And I'm going to make sure that I get that shoulder good and cleaned out. And then I'm actually going to wrap this with a few wraps of electrical tape, just because it's not quite big enough. This man's got freaking sausage fingers. Nice thing about these, I just turned them real quick on the lathe, and I made 5 or 6 of them, and they have worked really well for the finishing process. Now, the reason I use these is because I've got my little UV light, which is basically a nail polish curing light, and I've got it stood up on end. I'll show you that here in a minute. But it just sits right there in the bottom, and it works perfect. So I use this, just to hold on to it while I'm applying the Illumi UV. And they were cheap to make, just some scrap wood. You can adjust the size on them however you want. And I'm just doing one more wipe down because I did mess with it a little bit getting it on there. And from here out, I am not touching that wood. So, get rid of my electrical tape. Get my Illumi UV. And my paintbrush. I get asked all the time, what kind of paintbrush do you use? Do you have to have a fancy paintbrush to apply this stuff? I picked up a pack of like 50 of these at the dollar store. They're kids' craft brushes. They're garbage. Absolute garbage brushes. It's just plastic. The bristles are even plastic, but it works beautifully for applying the Illumi UV. So that's what I use. All right. Now, I'm just going to start putting it on. Now, what I do when I'm trying to come up to one of my shoulders is I push it over the edge and I pull back. Just like that. And then I'll kind of push my blob around. I don't want a super thick coat of it. You don't need a super thick coat. I'll just come up to the edge and pull back away from the edge, and it'll fill in that shoulder that I made earlier. And it'll create a good bond on the carbon fiber and on the wood. I do this for any of the rings that I make that don't have a channel, you know, stainless steel or whatever. And if you're careful and don't get it on the outside of the channel, you don't have to go back through and resand and, you know, turn it down. And just do a final polish and it's done. So I'm going to start by working the shoulder side. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to work the, I guess I'll call it the channel side, to get it up level with that channel. I also don't usually do this in the shop. I take it in the house where it's less dusty, but I've been pretty good about not kicking up a whole bunch of dust, knowing that I was going to do this out here in the shop. And you'll rarely, if ever, see me do this on my Facebook Lives. Which I do every Monday, if you're interested in seeing me make more rings. I'm going to start doing more here on YouTube, but I do quite a bit on Facebook. Every Monday night, I'm making rings live on Facebook. I don't always go into this much detail, but it at least gives people an idea of how to do it. You can see how dark blue that ends up being after it gets coated. Real pretty. Now you can use temperature to your advantage with this Illumi UV. Like if you want a thicker coat, you can actually cool this down and it becomes more viscous. And when it's more viscous like that, it'll build up easier on itself. Now if it's warmer, it's going to be less viscous and it runs everywhere, which is great for getting thin coats. Which I do when if I do a full dip, I'll actually put my little jar of Illumi UV in a bowl of hot water or warm water and let it sit for a little bit and let it warm up. That way it works a little bit easier and I don't get as thick a coat. Now what I'm doing, I'm just spinning it right now. I'm looking for air bubbles. I don't know if you saw that one that I just pulled out of there. But I think it's just about ready to go. Now I am holding this at a little bit of an angle. So right now this end is down a little bit. I want it to be just a little bit thicker on that side before I stand it up and put it in my UV bath, because it will run down a little bit before it hardens up. It doesn't take long to harden up, but sometimes it's just enough to make it look goofy on one side. So I'll rotate it evenly, make sure I've got a little bit of a buildup on the top before I stick it in there. So I'll go ahead. I know I haven't shown the UV bath yet, but I'm at a point now where I need to get it in there. So I'll show you that here in a minute. I'm just gonna let that sit in there for just for a couple minutes before I move cameras around and open it up to show you. Actually, I should be able to grab this one real quick and easy. All it is, it's a nail curing lamp. You can see in there. I just stick it over in a corner because it's right between two bulbs, and it's close. So if you're close to the bulbs, it has a faster impact, and it cures quicker. So I'm going to leave that in there for about a half an hour. This brush, I'll probably use it 40 more times. I just wipe it off. And as long as you're not exposing the brush to the UV, it stays soft. So you can wipe it off and reuse it plenty of times. But that's it, start to finish. If you didn't catch the first part, it is on my YouTube channel. On that part, I created the carbon fiber core and fit up the Amboyna to fit the carbon fiber core, and I glued it. And took about an hour. So, you know, you can always fast forward through and all that fun stuff too. But if you want to check that out, please do. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. If you've got friends that make rings, share it. If you've got groups that you're in that are based around ring making, please share it there if you're so inclined. I've already got it shared to my Facebook group, Wood Ring Makers. I'll have a link to that down in the description. I've already got a link to it in the description of the first part. So if you're not part of that and you want to join up there, please do. But yeah, that's the whole process, start to finish, in 2 parts. What time is it? 8:45. So this took a little bit longer. So the whole process took about 3 hours. Like I said, I'm going to let that cure for about a half an hour more, and then I'll go through and do a final polish on it. And once that final polish is done, I will get good photos up on my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/handmade by Brandon. So follow me there too if you'd like. But I am trying to grow my YouTube following and YouTube presence. So share away, like, subscribe. If you want, hit that notification bell. Mondays, jumping back to Facebook, Frank just asked me another question. What time do I usually go live on Mondays? 99% of the time it's going to be at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. And yeah, like I said, from here out, I'm going to be doing only rings on Mondays for my Facebook Lives. I will probably pop in every once in a while Facebook Live and do what I like to call shut up and turn. And that's really exactly what it is. I don't talk much, if at all. Um, it's usually me making a bowl or, something that's not a ring. Because I use wood turning as therapy for myself. And it helps tremendously when I start to get into a funk. Um, I'll just come out and turn a bowl or something else. I don't always have to be in a funk to do it. Um, Sometimes I just feel like coming out and playing with my wood. So, um, yeah, that's those little segments I like to call Shut Up and Turn. But yeah, those are all going to be over on Facebook. You can always go to my website. It's down in the corner there, handmadebybrandon.com. I've got links to everything there: Facebook, Instagram. Um, I might have a link for TikTok. If you want to follow me on TikTok, it's the same name, Handmade by Brandon. Um, but I'm all over the place with the same name. And it's Branden, not On, if you're looking for me. But that's all I've got for right now. Like I said, I'll get final photos posted up. I'll probably put some in the comments if YouTube will let me put a photo comment in. And I'll probably end up changing the thumbnail for both of the videos to a photo of the final ring. So if you want to take a look at that. But yeah, this was a fun one to make for a good friend of mine, and I look forward to getting the pen that he's sending me in exchange for it. So again, if you want to check out his stuff, it's Tank's Custom Pens on Facebook. He does some pretty amazing stuff. So um, I'll have links to all my groups and everything down in the description. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I've been talking long enough. I want to go and eat. So I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.